If you've got a kid or you yourself has ever signed up for a service and then you have to sign a contract, like a 3-month, 6-month, 1-year contract, this is very common in gyms. This is very common in like the online coaching community. This is very common in kids' play centers, whether it's gymnastics, martial arts, whatever it might be. You might be signing a contract, and I hate them. I think they're the dumbest thing in the world. I think it's under the guise of we care about people, but the people actually saying we care about people and then forcing you to sign a contract to use their service, they've themselves, I believe, have actually been fooled, and they don't even realize it. Now, first off, there's a saying. I was raised in the Christian community, and there's a saying: the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And that to me is exactly what a contract is in the consumer world of services. Okay, I understand like professional athletes have contracts. I get that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you're going to your local gym and you've got to sign up for a 3-month, 6-month contract, I think that's a load of just utter trash, crap, garbage, lies. I don't think it's necessary at all. And I'll tell you why. I've been in the coaching industry. I've coached gymnastics for over 20 years, and I do not have a contract with any of my athletes. If my athlete wants to quit tomorrow, they can. Why? Well, let me tell you something, okay? First off, people who say contracts are necessary, they believe that contracts work. Well, what is the contract actually doing? Is the contract the reason why the person's showing up, or is the work the reason why the person's showing up? You go, well, nobody really wants to work, so I need a contract to make them work. No, you don't. No, you don't at all. You know, Disneyland doesn't have contracts. You buy a ticket, you literally show up, and you're willing to stand in line for 2 hours, an hour and a half, to go ride on a ride with a child. They do not have to get you to sign a contract to get you to stand in line and wait for a ride. Disneyland doesn't need a contract to get you to come back next year. They don't need a contract to say, you know what, okay, you're gonna come once, and we're gonna wait till 364 days pass, and then also you're gonna be like, I wanna show up at Disneyland again. They don't need a contract to get you to come back. A whole year can pass, and the customer's gonna go back to Disneyland. No matter how bad the experience was, they still have this magical memory, and they still wanna go back. No contract needed. Other point about contracts, the divorce rate. Anyone paying attention? People are like, contracts are necessary to get people to follow through. You're full of crap, like utter garbage crap. And I'll tell you why. Because anybody who believes a contract creates follow through is like an utter moron, okay? And I'll tell you, because you've not paid attention to religion at all. Like if you grew up in the church, you would know contracts are trash. Because in Christianity, okay, the first idea was that God had a relationship with man using what they termed as the law. And it was a contractual deal. You need to follow the law and I'll be your God. And then they didn't follow the law, and then God sent them away to Babylon or someplace so that they could be on timeout, essentially. It was a contractual deal, and it doesn't work. And the second side of that is Jesus coming, and he's like, yo, I already knew the contract wasn't going to work. I'm fulfilling the contract so that you don't have to. And because it's about relationship and connectivity and working as a human being and realizing that this is not, relationships are not contractual. They're not. If you want to have a contractual relationship, you're fooling yourself. And that is the exact reason why the government has lied to itself to think that it needs to get involved in marriage. Okay, because marriage is not a contract. You don't have a marriage based off a contract. You have a marriage that stays together because you have community, because you have support, because you have people cheering you on, not because a piece of paper has your name on it. And we literally have the statistics to prove that. The divorce rate is like at 50%. So the contract of getting married has a 50% success rate. And so you're there in your fitness industry going, well, I need to have a 3-month contract with my client to be able to get results. No, you're gonna get 50% of your results because contracts only work at a 50% rate. And you might say, well, no, they work for me, Raleigh. And that goes back into, you know what works also? The devil. A lot of things work for Satan, you know? A lot of things work for really bad people. They got a lot of stuff done. It does not mean that just because it works, it is morally good or should be acceptable. So you've just lied to yourself. Contracts are utter trash. And I'll tell you, let's go a little bit further to this to really dive into the understanding of, do you actually care about the person who signs the contract? And the answer is no, you don't. You don't actually care about them. okay? Because here's what happens. In sales, the idea of sales is to get people to create emotional response. That's what sales is. So sales is not about using the rational thinking of, can I afford this? Sales is about the idea of getting someone to feel that they need it, that they can't do life without it, okay? Who gets trapped into that? Poor people. People that cannot afford the service and cannot afford the contract, but you sell them on this idea and they get wrapped up into it and they're like, oh, okay, I guess I should do. I'm not a good parent if I don't put my kid in your program and sign this 3-6 month contract. I must be a terrible, I'm really letting my child down. Okay, I guess I'll do it. And then what happens? Reality kicks in and they can't pay that $100 a month, $150 a month, and they need out. They need to get out because they have bills to pay and they got mouths to feed. And they come over to you and they go, hey, I can't do this. And you go, well, you signed a contract. F you. You don't care about people, okay? If you got money, you don't need a contract. You're going to show up and do the work because you've already done work to get the money. People who have money that are entrepreneurial, okay, they're not lazy people. They got money because they worked hard. All right, so I don't need a contract as a person. I've already worked hard enough in life to know that if I'm going to pursue something, I'm going to follow through with it. And that's called character, okay? And what you as a business or a coach want, is you want people that have character. And you don't need a contract to get character out of somebody. So the person who can't afford the contract wants out. What do? So you say, okay, well, you know what? I can totally understand. Don't worry about it. You're not going to have to. Well, then what was the point of the contract? If you're going to let them slide, what was the point of the contract? It didn't do what it was supposed to do. If you're going to let the person get out of the contract because they can't afford it, and you're like, well, I really care about you, and I totally understand, so you can break the contract. Wait. They can break the contract because they can't afford it? Right, so then the contract is void. See how where the circular reasoning goes? So the people who can't afford it stick with it, and they would have stuck with it without the contract. And the people who can't afford it can't stick with it, and then they have to come up with some BS response because they're not as confrontational as you are, maybe not as assertive, and they have to figure out, how am I going to get out of this contract because I need the money. My car just broke down and I need that $100 to help repair it, and they don't know how to get out of the contract, and so they have to come up with all these reasons. It's not a relationship-based idea at all. There's no, and I went to the online coaching community. I paid $11,000 for the course. I started looking at the stuff, the little presentation slide they get you to sign up for the course is all about we have integrity and clarity and blah, blah, blah. And it's all utter freaking trash. And I'll tell you why it's utter freaking trash, because the people there literally say this. They go, if you get somebody on the phone, they call these like points of resistance, essentially. I don't have a better term for it, but it's like you get somebody on the phone and they say, well, I have to talk to my husband, or they go, I have to talk to my wife. Literally the advice they're giving coaches on these onboarding calls is to say, well, if your husband or your wife loved you and really wanted to see you successful, they would say yes. Huh? Forget you, dude. You're literally telling a married couple to not communicate financially, and you think that's good advice? You should go to prison. Like, that's freaking stupid. That's the dumbest advice in the world. And I don't care if you have any success points. You're literally tearing that marriage apart because you're saying, hey, don't communicate to your spouse about spending $2,000, high ticket salespeople. You're literally telling your spouse to not communicate about spending $2,000, and you think that's healthy relationship skills? And then you're going to get them to sign up for a contract where they don't get their money back if they don't get the results. Freaking dumb. Dumb. You know what makes a business good, successful, morally okay, above top notch? You know what makes a business actually great? Is one that can stand on its word and doesn't need a contract. One that can stand on its results and doesn't need a contract. One that says, yo, I can exceed expectations and I have no fear that you're going to fail because I know I'm going to walk you through it. That's what a real good business does. In my business, okay, I have a gymnastics business. I don't do trials. We don't do one-day trials. No, you go for the whole month. And because I know relationships take time, so they go for the month, okay? And if you do not like it at the end of the month, we'll give you your money back 100%, all of it back. No questions asked. You can just literally go, hey, Raleigh, My kid didn't really dig it, not really enjoying it. That's totally fine. Here's your money back. No problems. Why do we do that? Because we have no fear in the product that we serve, like the deliver. Our deliverable, we have no fear in it. We're not afraid that you're not gonna like it because I know it's rock solid. You know how many times we've had to give that refund over the years? Like, I don't know, over maybe like the 7 years that we've been applying this concept, maybe like 3 times most, maybe even less than that. And like we never have to do that. Because once the kid shows up after a month and realizes that the coaches are actually invested in them and they actually have fun, they're like, yeah, I'll come back. You ever think that maybe if your service was so good, you could allow people to try it and then they realize how good it is and then they'd come back? But instead, you have to sell them a contract before they've even experienced it long enough to even get a result. That's trash. That's bad business. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And there's some of you people that are going to be like, no, Raleigh, you're wrong. And I'm going to tell you straight up to your face, I think you're liars. And I think you're cheats. And I think you're thieves. If you actually believed in the thing you sold, you wouldn't need a contract. You just wouldn't. Not at the consumer goods level, not at the karate class level, not at the fitness level, not at any of that level. I get it if we're talking professional sports, if we're talking contracts for real estate, I get that. Okay, well, that's big money. When we're talking hundreds of dollars, even a couple $1,000s, those high ticket salespeople, literally just bullshit. That's what that is. And if you don't know that already, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Satan's really good at doing what he does, and you can lie to yourself all you want to and think you got the best in mind for those people. I really care about those people. No, you don't, because there's no way out of your contract except making those people feel guilty as if they're not going to experience a fuller life without what you have to offer. And that's just a crappy way to do life. That's not it. If your product worked, you could allow people to experience it and then they would want more. Like literally like cake. Like cake is like, yo, here's a slice. And someone's like, dang, that's good. I think I'll have another piece. Like that's all it is. If you could cake out your product and service and the people liked it and you trusted it enough, they'd come back. They would. And you go, well, no, Raleigh, people don't really want to work that hard. They're in the fitness community and they don't want to work that hard. And it's like, well, you know what? They actually do. But the problem is that they don't get results. Because if they don't get results, why should they come back? And you might not actually be as good at what you think you are so that they don't get results. And then what do? You're like, well, if I only had 3 months of their time, you only need 2 weeks of a person's time to get results. If you can't get results within 2 weeks, then you better go back to the board and actually learn your art and your performance, because it only takes 2 weeks to say change. And 2 weeks is not a long time, and everyone has the attention span for 2 weeks. It's just the fact of whether you can actually present the information in a way that people are actually going to stay engaged for 2 weeks. And that falls on us as the coaches, us as the business owners, us as the people selling the product. We need to do better if we're going to provide something. But contracts is not requiring us to do better. Contracts is the cheap way out of getting money from the poor person and not actually caring about people. Rant over. Bye.